Hello, welcome back. This is Mystic, and I'm bringing you another episode of my 150 script challenge. This is where I read and analyze and discuss a script that I've read. I am a writer of novels and screenplays, and reading scripts is one of the things that I do both for entertainment and as a tool to develop as a writer. I believe that as creatives, we are creative till the day we are no longer around. Anyone who tells you that they have learned everything there is to learn, I think that they still have more to learn. So I thought I would challenge myself and share with you as I go through the journey of learning and discovery as I go through 150 scripts. Now, before I move forward, just a little housekeeping. I enjoy engaging with you. I welcome you. Thank you so much for supporting my channel and the work that I do. I am available. I love helping people develop their stories or helping you hone in and get to the nitty-gritty of what you're working on. So I do offer a complimentary session to discuss what you're up to, and if there's anything I can do to help you. My contact information will be at the end of this video and in the description. Also, please know that I embrace a nice, friendly, supportive, safe, and respectful community here for all creatives, for all writers. So if you engage and comment, please be kind to each other. You may not agree. It is okay to debate and disagree. It is not okay to be mean to each other. And please give me some grace as I go through these scripts. You may not agree with my assessment, but we can talk about it. So just be respectful and be kind. I love having you here, and I want to continue to be bringing you more content. I appreciate if you would subscribe, like, and share to support the work that I'm here to do. So let's get into the next script. It is script number 9, and it is October, and I'm bringing you more scares and fear. So less heady, more scares. And the script that we're going to be doing today is 28 Days Later. So 28 Days Later was written by Alex Garland. It is a horror post-apocalyptic survival story. It is a zombie-esque film, and I am a zombie girl. I love my zombie films, and I loved this film when it came out. I was very impressed. And as I say, when you read a script and a film that you've seen, it's sometimes difficult to take the movie out of your head while you're reading it. So it's always important to kind of step back, because a lot of times there are a lot of differences, and there are some differences in how the script is and how the movie is. So if I say something and you saw the movie and you're like, that's not how it was, please give me that grace and understand I am coming from the script. I am not reviewing a movie. I am just reading a script and doing some analysis. So we start with why I chose the script. And I picked 28 Days Later because it's kind of a stripped down horror. It's got no mythology that is attached to. It is a zombie-esque film, but it's not attached to the zombie lore. They come from a different space, and it really focuses on how civilization unravels, not through the monsters, and they don't even spend a lot of time on the zombie-esque creatures. They really spend time around how society and how the people had to survive and reacted around them. So as a writer, I wanted to see how Garland builds the dread and the tension and the silence and all that through the violence and the writing itself. So quick story setup, spoiler alert, we are reading a script. So if you haven't seen 28 Days Later, and you don't want to have a spoiler alert, turn this off, go watch the film, and then come back. I will give you references on where you can go grab scripts so that you can read them with me. But here we go. Quick story setup. So an activist group raids a laboratory to release the animals that they feel are being abused by the laboratory, and inadvertently release this rage-infected lab chimp who passes on the disease, and it's chaos. From there, we cut to Jim, who is a bike courier, who wakes up from a coma to find himself in a abandoned London. He searches for answer. He meets a set of survivors for Selena and Mark, and then he goes from Selena and Mark. Then he finds Frank and Hannah. Then he has alliances. The alliances are tested. the infection spreads, and the horror reveals itself in what people are willing to do to survive. That's the core of the story. Nothing really fancy. In the paper, I have lots of notes that I go through, so you hear me flipping paper around, so forgive me for that. Now, I always go through kind of an act structure analysis from the way I see it. So, yeah, we open the film with an animal liberation raid, and it doesn't go well. So the rage virus is unleashed in seconds. That's how it occurs. In seconds, the world is different. The inciting incident here, Jim awakens in the empty hospital and discovers the world has collapsed around him, and he wasn't a part of it. In the plot point I found was when he finds his parents, but between the inciting incident and the plot point that I found, he meets Mark and Selena and convinces them to go with him to find his parents, because he still has hope. If he could just find his parents, he'll be okay. As part of that, then we find him with his parents' house, and his parents are dead, and he has to confront the reality that this is the situation we're in. He has to confront his loss and the reality. In that same setup, Mark becomes infected, and Selena eliminates him in such a way to really help you understand Selena's position. This scene made it clear that she is about survival. No matter how much time she's known you, no matter who you are, she's not interested. And that's an interesting point. So remember that. After that, we get to the midpoint of the story, where we meet Frank and Hannah, a father and daughter team. And there's this glimmer of hope. We also find that there's some sort of soldier rescue center. So there's this hope, and we go off together to seek out these soldiers. We go to the second plot point, where we arrive with the soldiers at the blockade to discover that the soldiers are not good people. They have bad intentions. In the climax, Jim embraces his own primal rage to rescue Selena and Hannah from the soldiers. And then the resolution, the three escape. They survive at a terrible cost. Lots of loss, but they survive. So the protagonist here is Jim. The protagonist arc, Jim, what he wants, he just wants to find his family and make sense of everything that's happened. His obstacles, as I said, we start the film off after the incident at the lab with Jim waking up from a coma at the hospital. So he's pretty weak. He's also naive. He doesn't occur in his normal life that he came from a space where he was anything but just a nice guy that was hopeful and saw the good in everyone, which is probably not the best place to be in this kind of situation. The brutality of the infected, he's confronted by that, but he's also confronted by the brutality of the survivors. He's out of place in this world that it's become. It's not who he is. But his transformation from this innocent to a survivor who is willing to commit violence to protect others is really clear. A really great writing point there. The heartbeat connection, I feel like the tragedy and the hope combined in his arc. That survival demanded that he embrace rage, which is not something he wanted to do, but he had to do. And he channels it for defense. He doesn't channel it for pure anger and pure hostility. Now the antagonist in conflict. The primary antagonist is twofold here. We've got the infected, they represent rage. The rage of humanity is just embodied in the infected, just blind rage. But later we also have the soldiers who embody the darker side of humanity. So we have rage, and then we have desire and selfishness and sneakiness and deception. So it's like all the negativity of humanity embodied by these two elements that are the antagonists in the story. The conflict, the conflict is literally about man versus. We've got man versus the world, man versus man versus himself. And man versus himself, he has to choose between his innocence and savagery. Yeah. Always look for the mirror. How does the antagonist mirror the world, mirror the protagonist, mirror themselves? And I feel like the soldiers and the infected, they reflect each other. They both are harsh. They exploit fear. They're violent, and it's about domination on both sides, where the rage zombies want to dominate you, to destroy you, where the soldiers want to just dominate. Now, if you follow me, you know the angel lives her hero's journey, and I always want to find a way to apply the hero's journey to every story that I read. So when I look at this story, how do I apply this? The call to adventure for Jim, who is our hero, is when he wakes up in the abandoned London, and that's the herald. That's what calls him to adventure. He does refuse it because he's clinging to the concept that his family is still alive. His mentor, he's got two that I see. His first mentor was Selena, but she's not a kind, gentle mentor. She is about brutality and being pragmatic. She's like, don't do this, be quiet, sit down, put some clothes on, don't eat that, go get some water. She's the one that literally helps him just survive, basic, pure survival. Later, it comes down to hope and a glimmer of joy, and that's Frank, whom he loses. And as he loses him and the story develops, then he and Selena, they become different, and the hope awakens in Selena towards the end when he comes back to rescue her, which is really cool. And the trials, he had lots of trials, as you would expect in a kind of a zombie-esque story. It's really about fighting to survive, loss of companions, betrayals, near-death escapes, all that kind of cool stuff that comes with running from rage zombies. And his transformation, Jim transforms from innocent, hopeful lad to survivalist, and he becomes a little more set in reality. He discovers the more ferocious, the more angry part of himself that's willing to do whatever it takes to survive. And there is a moment in the film where he and Selena and Hannah and Frank are traveling through the cities, and they find this little hamburger stand or something like that. And he goes in. Selena says, don't go in there. And he goes in anyway because he wants a hamburger. It was weird. But he wanted a cheeseburger. And he finds a child there, a young boy, and he's alone. And he's got a baseball bat, and he kills it. He kills him to survive, that was the thing that triggered the start for change for him, because that sat with him and it changed something in him. The key emotional beats, I just shared one with you. Jim finding his parents deceased in the home, and they left a note basically saying that the world is a horrible place. They lost their son because he was in a coma, and you feel like he's not going to come out of a coma, and then the world falls apart around them. So they pretty much gave up. There was nothing else for them, and they left a note that basically said, stay, don't come back. Whatever it is, stay wherever you are in this coma, don't wake up. Selena killing Mark without hesitation. They confronted some rage zombies. Some blood got on Mark, but he had a scratch, and the blood got on the scratch, and she didn't even give him a chance to see if he was going to turn. She just eliminated him without hesitation. That showed you who Selena was at that point in time in the story. Frank's infection was devastating. He represented hope, and he was an anchor in the story, and his loss was devastating. Jim went nuts at the end of the story to save Selena and Hannah. He literally went nuts, and the writer described him when Selena was standing there as he was just decimating this soldier, described him as a raging zombie. He described his actions. He described his look. He was covered in blood because he already fought a whole bunch of people. The look in his eyes. he was described as raging, as one of the raging zombies, and Selena had to make a choice, and she chose to freeze. She couldn't do it because she had connected with him. Any other time he'd been gone, and we wouldn't have known if he was what happened, but she froze. And it turned out that it was good that she froze, but it was intense. The description was pretty intense. The writer did a great job with that. Symbolisms. I found that the silent, empty London was a powerful symbol, the way it was described. It was lonely, and it represented how fragile civilization can be. Blood being the reason for the infection made it physical. It was a symbol of how fragile and how vulnerable we are as a creature. That you can't, if you touch it, if it gets in your system through your mouth, through your eyes, through a cut, you're infected. And then the family bonds. I really enjoyed the family bonds, and when they're broken, when people are gone, and how they can be created through connection as you grow to know people. I really like that. The heartbeat, the connection, I think, oh man, rage was a connection that was really serious. And the fact that it was the rage that drove danger, that the enemy was after you through rage, and the fact that it was through rage that you survive, because that seemed to be a key point for me, that Jim had to connect to his rage in order to save the girls. And that was kind of powerful for me. So it's all humanity's strength coming from this same primal place that the danger came from. So that's kind of what I got from there. And the emotional climax for me, again, was Jim's violent rampage against the soldiers. It mirrored the infection. It's like, it was so, I don't know that I saw it as clear when I watched the movie as well as I saw it in the story, that we spent this whole time looking at how these zombie-esque, the rage zombies were raging. And at the end, Jim became one, but he wasn't one, because he was human, and our humanity is in our emotions, and one of those emotions is rage. So the key craft lessons as a writer that I see, start with a bang and then go quiet. That was so good. We started off with this prologue that was just chaos, like bam, craziness. It was a crazy written scene, and the scientists like, please don't do that. You don't know what you're gonna let out the virus. Like, screw you, scientist guy. You guys are evil. Let these creatures go. It was a wild scene. And then it was over, and there was quiet, and we wake up in the hospital. It was really, really well done. Environment as the character. Empty London was written in such haunting detail, and that needed no dialogue. It was a very quiet scene that really helped you see it as you were reading it, so it was well done. Death was swift. When people met their fate, it was swift and it was shocking. Selena ending Mark in the seconds. It drove home the rules of the game. If you weren't sure what the rules of the game were, that moment made it clear what the rules of the game were. And if you don't follow the rules, you're going to be gone. And so it was a really good scene. And as a writer, it's one of those moments like, dang, I wish I could have written that. Shift antagonists midstream. We went from the raging zombies to the soldiers back to the raging zombies, right? And one of the really cool things that I enjoyed in watching the film, and I enjoyed it even more reading it, because he did such a great job in doing this. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Jim pulled the raging zombies into the mix to fight the soldiers, and eventually the soldiers, one by one, became the raging zombies, and they were fighting themselves while these three were getting away. Show the arcs of your characters through action, not through speeches. Jim's transformation was written through his choices, through his moves, through his actions, not through monologues, and I really like that too. So my personal reflection, reading the script made me sit in the quiet between the scares. I was able to sit down and read it and kind of get involved in the story, which I liked. It wasn't about zombies or infected. It was about how quickly the world we know can end and what we become if everything that kept us safe was stripped away. It really made me think about that. What would you do if this happened, if that happened? And it made me ask, as a writer, when my protagonist changes, am I showing that shift through the external pressure, through turning points, through actions, or am I just telling people that this is what's happening? Because that makes good writing, and that reflects well in interpreting it onto the screen when the directors and actors get involved. This was a good script. I would recommend it. It was simple to read, and I don't say that in a bad way. Sometimes scripts are simple to read because they're not good. Sometimes scripts are good and they're just really complicated. This script was simple to read, and it made sense, and it took you on a ride that you understood, and you were clear where we were going, and it was well done. At its heart, 28 Days Later is about how survival demands we embrace the very rage that threatens to destroy us. And that is what got me. And I loved it. I try to keep this to 20 minutes. I haven't been very good at it. I think I'm going to hit 22 minutes on this one. I am available if you want to talk more about it. Let's hit in the comments. If you want to go into more detail, I might go live one day and talk about all of these, because there's a lot to talk about. 20 minutes doesn't give it justice, but I encourage you to read it. It is a really great script. You did a really great job on this script, my friend. Whew. Thank you for diving into the horror 28 Days Later with me. Again, please like and share and subscribe. I will look forward to hearing what you have to say. And if you've read the script, jump in the comments and let me know what you think. If you saw the movie, jump in the comments and let me know what you think. But in the meantime, thank you for coming by. I will see you with the next script, the next challenge that we have. More horror films coming your way as we have more days left in October. Thanks for coming by. Love you guys. Have a good one. Keep being you. Keep being creative. And don't let anybody tell you that you are not. Take care. See you next time. Bye-bye.